Yeah! MVP! You look back at the season from hell that the Fever had. None of us expected them to be in this situation. None of us expected them to be winning a very close game 3.
Nobody, and I mean nobody, saw this coming. The Indiana Fever were supposed to be done, buried, forgotten in the rubble of yet another so-called rebuilding year. They were penciled in as background noise, the kind of team that maybe scrapes together a few highlight reels, maybe sneaks a win against a contender, but ultimately fades into the shadows once the playoffs roll around. And Caitlin Clark? She was supposed to be a ghost in this postseason, sidelined with a brutal groin injury, watching helplessly from the bench, or worse, from her couch at home, while the dream slipped through her fingers. The storyline was already written. Great rookie year, but maybe next time. The analysts had moved on. The critics had closed the book, but the book didn't stay closed. Not even close. Because here we are. Against every odd, against every expert prediction, the Indiana Fever are not only alive, they're thriving. They are in the WNBA Finals. And in the kind of plot twist you only see once in a generation. Clark herself just confirmed the unthinkable. She's back. She's suiting up. She's ready to walk straight into the fire and turn the entire league upside down. This isn't just a storyline. This isn't just a comeback. This is a power shift so dramatic that it forces everyone, from rival coaches to casual fans, to stop what they're doing and pay attention. It's the kind of twist that doesn't just change a series, it rewrites history in real time. But here's the burning question, the one that will be debated from now until the final buzzer sounds. Should Indiana even risk playing her? Is this a genius gamble that could catapult them to immortality, or the boldest, craziest decision in WNBA history that could backfire in the most brutal way possible?
Walks there to the stanchion.
Let's rewind for a second. Go back to the start of the season. The Indiana Fever weren't even a blip on most analysts' radar. With a roster stacked with young talent still learning the pro game, plagued by inconsistency and weighed down by injuries, they were penciled in as fringe playoff hopefuls at best. At worst, they were written off before the first tip-off. Nobody, seriously nobody, believed this team would still be playing deep into October. And honestly, who could really argue with that logic? This wasn't some powerhouse franchise. This was Indiana, the team that, for years, had been the butt of the league's jokes. 5-win seasons, empty arenas echoing with disappointment, lottery picks that fizzled out before they ever sparked. Analysts and fans alike dismissed them as a lost cause, a team trapped in perpetual rebuild mode. Then came Caitlin Clark. Suddenly there was hope, a spark, a reason to care. But when Clark went down with that groin injury, the critics didn't hesitate to pounce. They slammed the book shut so fast it was almost insulting. The headline practically wrote itself. Fever done. Season over. Better luck next year. But here's the thing. Indiana never got that memo. They didn't fold. They didn't crumble. Instead, they embraced the role of underdog and clawed their way through the absolute toughest stretch of their season. While everyone else was laughing, they were grinding. While everyone else was counting them out, they were fighting for every possession. They refused to die. They fought through injuries. They played with grit that didn't show up on the stat sheet, but showed up in the win column. They carried each other when it mattered most. And that fight, that stubborn refusal to give in, is exactly why we're even having this conversation today. The truth is simple. The Indiana Fever weren't supposed to make it here. And yet, they did. And that makes what comes next even more electrifying.
When she does come back, do you feel like
I would not want to play the Indiana Fever, especially with a healthy Caitlin. I mean, that building, I got a little taste of it last year. And doing the Final Four, shows when she's on the court, when someone can really change the game in a couple moments like she can, she could be quiet for 10 minutes and then pop, pop, pop. It's 4 threes and the game's out of reach. And I think what the Fever are doing without her, that's going to help them in the future too, knowing that they can win a game when she's not on the court or she's not, at her best. So yeah, that Fever team, I would not want to play them with a healthy Caitlin.
So how did they survive without their star? Simple. Everyone else stepped up. Aaliyah Boston turned into a wrecking ball in the paint, bullying defenses like she was back at South Carolina, putting up double-doubles night after night. Kelsey Mitchell reminded everyone why her nickname is Money Mitch, hitting clutch jumpers that kept Indiana alive in must-win moments. And Odyssey Sims, the veteran presence on a young squad, became the glue that held it all together. Sims made the hustle plays that don't always show up in the box score. The deflections, the dives, the grit. She steadied the team when things threatened to spiral. That kind of leadership doesn't just win games. It builds belief. And so, against every odd, Indiana kept advancing. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving. And that resilience set the stage for the twist nobody saw coming. Because if the Fever could do all this without Caitlin Clark, imagine what they could do with her. Then it happened. The news that sent the entire sports world into chaos. Caitlin Clark, fully healed, fully cleared, and officially suiting up for the finals. For months, analysts insisted her season was over. Haters mocked her when she limped off the court, celebrating as if they'd been proven right. But now they've been forced into a full-blown backtrack. Clark didn't just come back. She came back at the exact moment it matters most. It's a script Hollywood couldn't have written better. The face of the league, returning from injury to play on the biggest stage possible. And make no mistake, this isn't just a comeback. This is a power shift. The entire balance of the WNBA Finals just flipped overnight. But here's the twist that most people missed. This wasn't luck. This was strategy. Remember when Indiana only submitted 11 players for their playoff roster instead of 12? Everyone thought it was a mistake, or maybe a depth issue. Turns out, it was genius. By leaving one roster spot open, the Fever gave themselves a backdoor option. They kept the door cracked for Clark's return without anyone realizing it. Under WNBA rules, playoff rosters lock at the end of the regular season, but there's one exception. Players already under contract, listed as inactive due to injury, can be reactivated if a roster spot is available. Indiana knew this. They played it cold. They let the speculation swirl. They let everyone believe Clark was gone. And then, at the perfect moment, they pulled the trigger. That's not desperation. That's foresight. That's a masterstroke. And now, the Fever's gamble is paying off in the biggest way imaginable. So why does this matter so much? It's not just about her stat line. Clark changes the geometry of the game itself. Her shooting range stretches defenses all the way to the parking lot. Her vision creates passing lanes that shouldn't even exist. And her gravity, just her presence, forces opponents into impossible choices. Double team Boston? Clark gets open. Trap Mitchell? Clark punishes you. Collapse the paint? Clark bombs away from deep. Even at 80%, Clark shifts everything. She doesn't need to drop 40 to dominate. Just being on the floor makes every Fever possession more dangerous. And that's why Vegas and New York, the so-called super teams, are suddenly rattled. They thought they'd dodged the bullet. They thought Clark was gone. And now, out of nowhere, they have to face her. That's not just a tactical problem. It's a psychological nightmare. But with all this hype, there's one massive risk. Let's be real, groin injuries are no joke. They linger. They flare up. They sap your explosiveness and test your conditioning. Bringing Clark back now is risky. If she struggles, the critics will pounce. If she re-injures herself, the backlash will be brutal. And everyone knows it. Indiana could have played it safe. They could have shelved her for next year, and nobody would have blamed them. Instead, they chose belief over caution. Because even a limited Caitlin Clark still commands respect. Opponents will guard her 25 feet out even if she's moving at half speed. That kind of gravity is worth the gamble every single time. And honestly, this move says more about the Fever than it does about Clark. It shows us exactly how far this franchise has come. Not long ago, Indiana was the league's punchline. They were irrelevant, mocked, and forgotten. But this team isn't that team anymore. This team is fearless. This team is bold. And this team is willing to gamble on greatness. Bringing Clark back isn't desperation, it's confidence. It's a declaration that the Fever believe they belong here, and they're not waiting for the future. They're demanding respect right now. And if this gamble works, if Clark comes back and Indiana pulls this off, we're talking about one of the greatest franchise turnarounds in sports history. Because suddenly, those so-called super teams don't look so super anymore. Here's the bigger picture. Clark didn't need this moment to be the face of the league. She already was. She was already breaking viewership records, selling out arenas, and selling more jerseys than anyone. But this comeback? This is different. This is legacy defining. Year 2 of her career, already battling through injuries, already carrying a franchise, and now staging a dramatic finals return. That's the stuff kids grow up hearing about. That's the kind of story that cements someone as a legend. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about basketball. This is about rewriting what people thought was possible for a player, for a team, and for an entire league. Clark's return is bigger than the haters, bigger than the analysts, and bigger than the excuses. She was counted out, and now she's back. And the only question left is, who's ready to stop her? The Indiana Fever weren't supposed to be here. Caitlin Clark wasn't supposed to be playing. And yet, here we are, on the brink of one of the most dramatic finals in WNBA history. So what do you think? Should Indiana risk it all by playing Clark in the finals? Or is this gamble about to make the Fever unstoppable? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're as hyped for this showdown as I am, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more breakdowns. Because trust me, the story is just getting started.